If you are anywhere close to writing an offer on a Vancouver in the next 30 days, stick around, because what I'm about to walk you through will save you from a six-figure mistake. The Vancouver condo market in 2026 is the most dangerous it's been in over a decade. And not because every condo is bad, because 6 specific categories of buildings have moved from cautious territory into outright dangerous territory. And if you do not know which 6, you might be about to write an offer on one of them. In the next several minutes, I'm going to walk you through the 6 Vancouver condo categories to avoid right now, exactly what to look for on every tour, and the one that separates a great buy from a 6-figure regret. Let's get into it. My name is Dan J. Reilly. I'm a realtor in Greater Vancouver, and I tour, review, and pull strata documents on Vancouver buildings every single week. The data in this video comes from CMHC's Spring 2026 report, Greater Vancouver Realtors, Statistics Canada, and what I see on actual depreciation reports in Form Bs in today's market. Sources are available in the description. Now, let's get into it. Before I get into the 6 traps, you need to understand the macro picture, because the playbook from a year ago does not work anymore. The Vancouver condo benchmark sits around $703,000, down almost 8% in a single year. The rental vacancy rate just hit 3.7%, the highest since 1988, and rents have been falling for more than 2 years straight. The last one matters, because rental income was the cheat code most condo investors were leaning on to make sure their numbers work. The cheat code that just compressed. And on top of that, Vancouver has the highest pile of unsold completed condos in the entire country. This is the environment you're buying into, and why the traps I'm about to walk you through are more dangerous in 2026 than they have ever been. Last year was caution. This year is rescue. Now let's get into it. Trap number 1. Buildings from the Leaky condo era. Vancouver had a major building envelope crisis from roughly 1985 to the year 2000. The buildings of that era were built with face-sealed stucco, no rain screen behind the cladding, and detailed by people who had never actually tried to keep British Columbia rain out of a wood frame box for 30 years. The result was the Leaky condo crisis. It bankrupted a generation of Vancouver strata corporations and cost owners hundreds of thousands of dollars in special assessments. The Barrett Commission of Inquiry in 1988 found that roughly 45% of all strata units built in BC in that era had envelope leak problems. Some of those buildings have already gone through one envelope repair cycle in the late 1990s and 2000s. The buildings that did the first repair properly with full rain screen and proper waterproofing are in decent shape. The buildings that did a partial repair, a budget repair, or no repair at all, those are now in their second envelope cycle. And the second cycle is significantly more expensive than the first. The depreciation reports I read on these buildings right now show envelope projects quoted at $500,000 to over $1 million. Strata fees that look low on the listing because the strata has been deferring the work, and contingency reserve funds sitting under $200,000. That is not enough to cover a single envelope cycle, let alone the related work that comes with it. A massive special assessment is generally coming, often inside 24 months. What to look for when you buy these buildings? Walk the perimeter of the building before you go inside. Look at the base of each level for a horizontal metal flashing line. That is the visual signature of a proper rain screen system. If you do not see that flashing on a building from the 1985 to 2000 era, that building has not been properly rain screened. Also look for staining at window heads, paint blistering off soffit transitions, and any visible repair patches in the stucco that do not match the surrounding finish. Then pull the depreciation report. Check the contingency reserve fund against the upcoming envelope work. If the gap is over $200,000 and the timeline is under 3 years, you're not buying a condo, you're buying a special assessment with a unit attached to it. Pass on the building, walk away. Metrotown, Brentwood, Lougheed, and Surrey City Centre, and any building in Metro Vancouver where more than half of the units were sold to investors during the 2021 to 2023 pre-sale frenzy. Generally, you should be cautious about these towers, because this year the math has moved from cautious to avoid. Here's why. Metro Vancouver rental vacancy is at 3.7%, the highest since 1988. Rents have been falling for more than 2 years. The investor cash flow math that justified those Metrotown one-bedroom purchases at $1,500 a square foot in 2022 does not work anymore. And it's not even close, which means those investors are listing their units. And a Metrotown tower with 200 units that suddenly has 30 or 40 active listings competing on the same MLS page at the same time, the appraiser comes in low on those comparables because he knows there will be distressed sales. And when your financing falls apart at completion, that is your problem. There's a second order effect that nobody in the Vancouver real estate community is really talking about. That's the federal government has cut its target for temporary residents by more than 40% year over year. Students, workers, the people who actually fill investor-owned rental units are not coming at the pace they used to. So even if rent drops compress at some point, the demand for these specific units is structurally lower. So what do you look for when you tour one of these towers? Ask the listing agent directly what percentage of the building is owner occupied versus rented. The Form B will not always answer this cleanly. The agent should know. If the answer is below 60% owner occupied, the building is investor heavy and the resale market is fundamentally tougher than the listing photos suggest. Also pull the rental comps for the building for the last 12 months. The trend is down 3 to 6% year over year. Income math does not work for any new buyer. And look at the floor plans. If the building is dominated by 500 to 600 square foot, 1 bedrooms and studios, it was purpose built for the investor rental market, not for owner occupiers, which means your future buyer pool when you eventually sell is going to be the same investors who are currently trying to get out. That is a structurally weak buyer pool. Pass. Trap number 3 are downtown glass towers that started construction in 2021 to 2023 at peak prices that are completing right now. These are the buildings where peak price pre-sale buyers are now staring down a completion appraisal that is $200,000 to $300,000 under their original contract price. And the financing rules at completion are tighter than they were at signing. The rental market cannot rescue them because of the supply surge and the immigration cuts I just walked you through. So they're walking away from deposits or being sued by developers for the resale price difference, or completing into a unit that is worth less than what they owe. Let me show you how the math actually works. You bought a presale unit in downtown in 2022 at $1,500 a square foot on a 700 square foot unit. Your contract price was $1,050,000. You put 10% down at signing, $105,000. Balance due at completion in 2026. The building completes this year. The bank's appraiser comes in at $1,200 a square foot. That is the appraised value of $840,000. The bank will lend on the appraised value, not the contract price. They lend 80% of $840,000, $672,000, but your contract requires $945,000 at completion. That gap, $672 from the bank, your $105 deposit, and the rest in cash. If you cannot find it, you walk away from your deposit. You go into financing default, or you try to assign the contract. And the assignment market for these units right now is essentially zero. This is the level of market dysfunction that should fundamentally change how you read every presale assignment listing in the city. What to look for. If you're buying a resale completion in one of these towers, pull the original pre-sale contract pricing from your realtor. Pull the recent appraisal comps. If the gap between the contract price and the current value is over 15%, expect distress. You can buy at a discount, but you need to know who is selling and why. A motivated assigner is your friend. A panicked developer unloading inventory at the same time is a different problem. Know which one you're dealing with. Trap number 4, pre-sale assignments where the developer has not broken ground yet. The hole has not been dug. There is no construction insurance in place, no project financing milestones have hit, and no real recourse for you if the developer files for protection. This is one of the most asymmetric risks in Vancouver real estate right now. Unsold developer inventory is at record highs across BC. Construction loans are getting pulled and projects are getting canceled. The assignment market for unbroken ground projects is also essentially zero. Buyers will not touch them, banks will not finance them, and your deposit sits in trust watching the clock run out. If somebody is trying to assign you a pre-sale unit in a building where they have not poured foundation yet, the answer is no before they tell you the price. And the developer litigation risk on these contracts is asymmetric in a way most buyers don't understand. If the developer cancels the project, your deposit comes back eventually, but maybe after a long fight through receivership. But if you cancel the contract, the developer can sue you for the difference between the original price and the eventual resale price. And right now, those resale prices are below original contract values across the entire city. The buyer of an unbroken ground assignment is the worst possible position, locked into a contract above market value with no working assignment to exit through with a developer whose finances cannot verify. What to look for. Ask a listing realtor one question. Has the developer broken ground? If the answer is no, or if it's vague, I would walk away. Better assignment opportunities exist in projects that are already under construction or already topped off. You do not need to take developer risk on top of appraisal risk. That is 2 bets in 1 purchase. Trap number 5, Strata corporations with a contingency reserve fund under $200,000 where the depreciation report is flagging envelope or roof work in the next 3 to 5 years. This is the due diligence that gets skipped most often because the focus is always on the price and rate. And how the unit shows at the open house, when honestly, the actual ticking time bomb in Vancouver condos is the gap between what the building needs in the next 5 years and what the strata has actually saved up for it. The Form B will tell you the CRF balance in one number. The depreciation report will tell you the upcoming work in the next section. You subtract one from the other before you write any offer. Let me show you an example. A typical mid-rise wood frame building, 60 units, listed at $650,000 for a one bedroom. The Form B shows a CRF balance of $120,000. The depreciation report shows envelope work of $800,000 projected for year 2, and a roof replacement of $250,000 in year 3. Total upcoming work, $1,050,000. The CRF has 120. The gap is $930,000 divided across 60 units. That is roughly $15,000 per unit per project. A $15,000 special assessment in year 2, another $5,000 in year 3, on top of any monthly fee increases. And what compounds is this in 2026? If the strata cannot get enough owners to vote to fund the work gets deferred. The building deteriorates further, and you eventually face an even bigger assessment down the road. Here's what to look for. Always ask for the most recent depreciation report and the most recent Form B. Then do the subtraction. If the gap is over $200,000 and the timeline is under 3 years, you're looking at an incoming assessment. Build that into your offer or pass. Trap number 6, buildings with active or pending litigation. Whether it's the strata suing the original developer over deficiencies, or the strata fighting a contractor, or two owners that have escalated into a strata-wide claim, litigation does several things to a Vancouver condo building that you need to understand before you buy in. First, litigation makes the building harder to insure. Certain insurance carriers flat out exclude litigated buildings, which means strata premiums can double at the next renewal, which means the strata operating budget gets squeezed and monthly fees go up at the next AGM. Second, litigation makes the unit harder to mortgage. Some lenders flat out exclude litigated buildings from their approval matrix, which shrinks your future buyer pool when you eventually go to sell. Third, litigation piles legal fees on top of the strata budget. A 2-year deficiency lawsuit can add 15 to 30% to a building's annual operating budget in legal fees alone. Fourth, the depreciation report on a litigated building often gets paused or defunded because nobody on the strata wants to commit capital to projects while the lawsuit defines the financial position. So you're buying into a building where your insurance is unstable, the lender pool is shrinking, operating budget is bleeding legal fees, and the capital plan is on hold. None of that will be on the listing description. The Form B will disclose the litigation, but most listing agents will not bring it up at the open house. What to look for? Ask every listing agent directly. Is there any active or pending litigation involving the Strata Corporation? And ask them to point you to the disclosure section on the Form B. If they're uncomfortable answering, if they brush it off, or if they tell you to ask the strata manager, walk out the elevator and skip the unit. The downstream effects of strata litigation are slow, but they compound. You won't feel the pain in year 1, but you will feel it in year 3 when the insurance triples, the strata fees spike, and your refinancing falls through. Here's the part I really need you to understand. The Vancouver condo market in 2026 is not bad across the board. There are great condos to buy right now at the lowest entry prices we've seen in years, but the spread between a great Vancouver condo buy and a 6-figure regret has never been wider than it is right now. And the difference between which side you land on comes down to about 30 minutes of due diligence and one phone call with somebody who actually reads buildings for a living. That is the math. 30 minutes versus $100,000. The buyers who get this right in 2026 will look back in 5 years and call it the best decision they've ever made. The buyers who get it wrong will spend a decade trying to dig it out. So here's the timing that matters. We are in the most dysfunctional condo market in over a decade. Sales are at multi-year lows, inventory at record highs, investors trying to exit, pre-sales completing underwater, and it will not last forever. By 2027 or 2028, inventory gets absorbed, the price gaps close, and the buyers who hesitated will pay more to get less. Right now is when the deals are out there, but only if you know which buildings to avoid. Skip the 6 traps and the deals on the other side are real. Walk into a trap and you can bleed for a decade. That is the spread. If you're looking at a specific Vancouver condo and you want me to read through the strata documents with you, check the envelope status, pull the rental comps, and whether it's a good buy or a trap, this is what I do. Comment the word condo below and I'll sell you my free condo guide for Metro Vancouver. It applies to resale condos, it applies to pre-sale condos, The same playbook, same due diligence. And if you want it applied to your exact situation, you can book a free strategy session with me. The link is in the description. Again, my name is Dan J. Reilly. I help buyers, sellers, and investors win in Metro Vancouver. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.